candidates have been working for a year and doing an outstanding job. But we have established, the committee has established some rules. Only the candidates can speak, not any representatives. The second is that each candidate can speak for 5 minutes. Mike Vanek is a Marine, and Mike is our timekeeper, so all you residents know that you better not speak over 5 minutes. To provide fairness, a committee member, we had a number of the committee members to draw numbers out of a hat and determine if there were more than one speaker by order of speakers. After all the candidates have spoken, we will entertain questions and answers from the candidates. A lot of the candidates, with only 20 days left, this is a busy forum and candidates rallies. So some of the candidates will have to leave, and we certainly understand that. But at least you'll get to see them in the flesh. You'll get to hear why they're running and what their platform is. So if some of them have to leave, we certainly understand. We just appreciate that they can come and be with us. We've also established a rule that when we get to the question and answer, only Sawgrass residents can ask questions, because it is for the Sawgrass residents, and that we ask that you give your name and where you live in Sawgrass. We're so delighted you're here. We're not going to take any more time. We'll call on Jim Bennett, who served on our council, but because of other interests, decided not to run again. But we found that Jim has been one of the hardest working candidates, council members, and he still continues to do work for the city and all kind of volunteer efforts. Jim, we'll call on you now to start the candidate speaking.
Thank you, Robbie. I thought I was supposed to keep track of time, so I'll keep track of Mike. Because I have seconds. The first seat up is the State Senate District 23. For those of you who haven't been following, that is a redrawn district that used to be held by Nancy Dieter then, and includes all of Sarasota County and some of Charlotte. The first speaker for that position is Greg Stubbe, who is currently in the Florida House. Greg.
Thanks, Jim. Wow, this is exciting. What a good group of people. You know, they say, hey, come up for a community forum, and I think it was last night we had an event. You never know how many people are going to show up. There's like 10 or 15 people, but this is great. This shows how concerned you are about this election and how concerned you are about making sure that you have good representation at the state level. I want to tell you a little bit about me because I've only got 5 minutes, some things I've worked on, and then my campaign manager will be available at the end for questions. I was born and raised, I'm a 5th generation Floridian, 4th generation Sarasotan on my dad's side. So I've grown up in this area. I graduated from high school in Manatee County, then had the opportunity to go to the University of Florida for undergrad and law school. During undergrad, I started getting involved in on-campus politics, and that's kind of where I got the bug for politics. I had the opportunity to intern at the U.S. Congress while I was an undergrad. I knew this was something I wanted to do, so I decided to go to law school. And my first semester of law school was September 11th. So I was moved and motivated by the events of September 11th. I actually graduated law school early, and I saw my fellow brothers and sisters that I was in law school with getting called up and going in and serving, and I saw that as my generation's opportunity to serve my country. So I graduated law school early. I enlisted in the United States Army, not as an officer. I went in as an enlisted guy to be an infantryman. I spent a year and a half in the infantry branch of the Army. I did basic training, got selected for officer candidate school, did infantry officer basic course, airborne school, injured my knee in Ranger school, so I branch transferred from infantry to JAG. Because of my combat arms experience, they transferred me from the infantry to the 25th Infantry Division as a JAG officer. I had the opportunity to deploy in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2006 and 2007. During that time, I was the Chief of Detainee Operations for Multinational Division North. So I worked in the northern part of Iraq and dealt with all of the issues that we dealt with as it related to detainees. So I had the honor to serve my country, but I always wanted to come back and serve my community in a different capacity. So when I got out of active duty, I had an opportunity to run for a House seat because my predecessor was termed out. And less than 6 months of getting back, I ran for the state house and was honored enough to be elected. So I've been in the state house representing you in Tallahassee for the last 6 years. My current house district is eastern Manatee County and the northeastern portion of Sarasota County. So Venice is just out of the district. So for the last 6 years, we've done the things that we needed to do to cut taxes. We've cut regulations. There was a presentation today at a lunch I was at with CFO Atwater, and he showed how we, with the decisions that we made at the legislature level, have kept Florida with the AAA bond rating. We balance our budget every single year, unlike the federal government, which I wish the federal government was required to balance their budget every year. We've balanced our budget, kept our bond rating, invested in schools. Last year we had record funding in schools. We've been able to cut taxes and provide Floridians with relief and an environment that is good for businesses and small businesses to be successful. In the time that I've been honored to be able to serve on everything from the Appropriations Committee to the State Affairs Committee to Economic Affairs to all the different committees that we've worked on. So I've worked on a lot of different issues. I encourage you to go to my website. It's www.electgregstube.com. Every bill I've ever sponsored, every committee I've ever sat on is on that website. There's video presentations of things that I've worked on that I believe in. And I think we have a real opportunity here in Sarasota and portion of Charlotte County to have a leader that has had experience in the House. Having served in the House the last 6 years, my folks that I came in with are going to be in the leadership in the House. What a great opportunity for this community to have a senator that has working relationships with the leadership in the House to really get some things done as it relates to Sarasota County. I've worked on homelessness initiatives. We've gotten funding in Sarasota County for mental health. We've gotten funding in Sarasota County for homelessness stuff, and those are things that I think we can continue to work on at the state level, having a senator that can go across the aisle over to the House and get some things accomplished. So thank you very much for being here. I look forward to your questions and the opportunity to serve you. If you have any questions, again, you can go to my website, www.electgregstube.com, and we'll be here in the back afterwards. Thank you very much for having us today.
Greg's opposition is Dr. Frank Alcock, who is a professor at New College. Frank.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Sawgrass residents, for coming out. My name is Frank Alcock. I'm a college professor at New College of Florida. I lived here, and I've been a college professor for, we're going on year 14. I lived with my wife of 20 years and my beautiful twin daughters, 13 years old. They're the center of my universe. My time here is about half of my professional career, which dates back a little over 25 years. It started out with a bachelor's degree in economics from Binghamton, and I went to work right out of college with the energy department. And I did some pretty interesting things in my early to mid-20s. I was able to get a security clearance, a Q clearance. They have them in the energy department, which is a top secret, actually a little bit above, because you get access to nuclear materials. For a couple of years with the energy department, my job essentially was to keep weapons scientists and high-energy physicists in the former Soviet Union out of trouble. This was the time when the Soviet Union was collapsing. They weren't getting paid by their government, and what we were doing was essentially putting them in collaborative protocol relationships with our energy department facilities, putting them to work doing some wholesome things so they wouldn't sell what they knew to some bad actors out there. I moved over in the energy department and went to work in an area that was involved in commercial diplomacy. I worked in South Asia, East Asia, and essentially what I was doing was traveling around the world with the secretary and other cabinet officials, trying to convince these countries to adopt sustainable policies and use American technologies and work with American firms. Picked up a master's degree in international affairs from George Washington, and then left the government and went into a doctoral program at Duke University. Did a little high school baseball coaching on the side, finished up all of my coursework, and then got into Harvard in a fellows program as a Belfer Fellow, where I finished my dissertation and then spent my time connecting knowledge and science on environment and natural resources, the stuff that actually mattered to people. One of the things that I just still can't stand is academics doing, or creating knowledge for themselves where it doesn't make a difference in people's lives. I finished up my dissertation, my kids came, I moved down, I got my job at New College doing the stuff or teaching the stuff that I had been working on for 12 years, which is essentially world politics, energy, and environment issues. And those are the courses that I've been teaching as a full-time faculty member, but I've been doing much outside of the classroom over the 13 years plus that I've been here. I worked with Moat for 4 years, helped them start a policy institute, better connect what they were doing to stuff that people matter, including stuff going on up in Tallahassee. Worked with Bay Estuary programs. Had an opportunity to work with an outfit called the Collins Center for Public Policy as a senior fellow on energy, environment, drilling, and then constitutional issues. Had a senior Fulbright Award. I got to take my family over to New Zealand, work with their energy systems, and also talk a little bit about Deepwater Horizon and lessons learned. Work with ABC on the news. I'm kind of like Kramer. I sort of work there, but I don't. They give me access to parking pass, and I come in and talk about politics once in a while. Also work with community foundations on things as versatile or as different from energy and K through 12 education. And I've coached a little bit with Miss Sarasota softball. So I think the point that I want to make is that I'm not your typical ivory tower academic. I've been working very hard my entire career on trying to do things that have an impact on people's lives. This particular Senate seat has a very rich legacy. I have an immense amount of respect for the folks that have held this seat, most recently Nancy Dieter. It impacts people's lives, and that's why I'm running. I have a lot on my platform, and I don't have a whole lot of time, but I thought that I'd pick out 3 issues that tell you a little bit something about me. One actually where I think I might share some principles with Mr. Stubbe, one where we have some honest disagreements, and another one where there's just a little lack of clarity. On the first one, I think the principle is pushing back against some of the special interests, which sometimes happen to be bigger corporations that write rules in order to protect their interests, and this comes at the expense often of small businesses, which are the backbone of job creation in our economy. 90% of new jobs come out of the small business sector. And I'll just pick something that I do, and I think it matters to you, and that's Amendment 1 on the ballot. And so I'm speaking out against Amendment 1 because I think if you learn a bit about it, this is what I would call a Trojan horse amendment that was set up by the big utilities. It's got a bunch of shiny stuff on their advertising, but essentially what it is, it was designed to undercut another amendment that did not get on the ballot. It's meant to undercut the financing mechanisms for small-scale distributed solar because the big utilities do not want anybody selling electricity except for themselves. And so it will actually slow down job growth. It'll slow down small business creation. It's meant to keep solar big and sort of under control of the bigger utilities. So I'd encourage you folks to vote against Amendment 1, but that's part of, I think, what I care about. Second, really quickly, I really think that the relationship between economic and health and security is one in which a number of folks within the Sarasota... Am I done, or do I have a... Well, I am not going to be able to stay around to answer questions. I would encourage you to go to my website, electfrankalcock.com. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
The next office is the House State Representative seat, District 74. I do not see the incumbent, but this is your House district. The incumbent's opponent, Manny Lopez, is here. Manny?
Sawgrass, thank you for this event. It looks very great to see all these people here. I am Manny Lopez. I am running for State House District 74C to be your representative. And let me tell you a little bit about me, then I'll get into a little bit of what I'm for. I was born and raised in Key West, 3rd generation. I'm of Cuban descent. My family came here before the Statue of Liberty was around. And I have a very diverse background. I'm experienced politically in the sense that I've been an elected school board member. I've served on a Port Authority board and Central Texas Economic Development Council and the executive board there, and various other government type positions. Hill County Extension Service I was the president of. So it's very diverse. And from an employment standpoint, I've run the gamut. And it's really good because I've done it by choice. And it allows me to have a very strong relationship and understanding and empathy with different situations and people. I've been a ditch digger, literally. I've house painted. I was a fisherman. I worked for Southern Bell as a telephone man, and I was a fireman. I'm a disabled veteran. I went into the Army and got hurt, unfortunately. I went back to school and got certified to be a teacher. I was an executive director of a Chamber of Commerce, a district executive for Boy Scouts. Very diverse, but it allows me to relate to and understand many different situations. I even was homeless for 2 years, back in my mid-20s. I did that as a personal social experiment to find out what it was like to be homeless for about 6 months. It turned into 2 years, quite an experience. But anyway, what I'm for? I'm for you. Y'all had someone in here for 2 years, and he has failed you as your representative. He has worked primarily on one bill, House Bill 401, which is a bill that allows for discrimination. It allows for medical professionals and retailers and other business people to discriminate certain people because of a dislike of their sexual orientation and race and other factors. A pure outright discrimination bill that would have been struck down by the courts had it passed, and it was a waste of your time and taxpayer money. There's many issues out there to be dealt with. A living wage. We need to have a living wage so people can work full-time and earn a living and take care of their family. We need to have responsible growth and development where we have developers that take accountability and responsibility for the costs that are out there because of their development, such as infrastructure. We need to invest in the infrastructure, not only in the development, it needs to be in there before they develop, but the infrastructure that's outside that development that's affected by the developer for that development. Because that money comes back on you as taxpayers, yet the developer gets away with it. So we need to take care of that and watch the environment. Guys, this is Florida. You frack it, you will crack it. We have to be against fracking. We need to stop teaching to the test. We need to have vocational training in all high schools, so when a student gets out, they're not hopeless, they have a living wage, they can make a living, be an asset to themselves, their family, and their community. We need to get away from that test and get back to teaching to the students and give teachers classroom autonomy. We need to expand Medicaid. And I propose for economic development, an economic development district, the fiber optic economic development district that would attract high-paying jobs, high-tech jobs, research and development jobs, medical type research, and it would be, I took a tour of the college the other day and told them about this idea. They loved it, they thought it was great, it would fit into their program, it would advance the education in this area, and it would be a great job creator. I think my time's about ready to go up, but again, very big also is my interest, very strong interest. This is the Sunshine State. We need to make it the solar state and get it to where we can live off the energy that's out there and get away from big oil because they do a lot of good things, but they also do a lot of bad things. And so basically that's it. I see that bell getting ready to go. It's not dinner time. So anyway, I'm available here afterwards. One other last thing, again, with my opponent. He wants to privatize Sarasota Memorial Hospital. Not a good idea, people. It's the only public hospital in the county, and we need it there. He was the chief of staff of the hospital in Venice and chief of surgery, and while he was there under his tenure, the hospital rating went down. We don't need leadership that's going to take things down. We need leadership that's going to advance things and move things forward, create jobs, and serve youth year-round, not part-time. Thank you.
So used to walking around with this thing that I have to watch myself. The next office is Clerk of the Court and Comptroller, and the incumbent is here, Karen Rushing.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today. And again, I'd like to say, like everyone else, thank you for your interest. It's unusual that we have this many people coming to hear us, and we really do appreciate it. I'm Karen Rushing, and I am the Clerk of the Court and Comptroller, and I've been serving this community since 1987. This is not an office that sets policy. This is an office that's technical in nature and implements law. I have a master's in business. I'm a certified strategic planner, and I have credentialed as a fraud examiner. I was appointed by the Supreme Court on a prior constitutional revision committee, and I also serve on the Florida Courts Technology Commission, which sets standards for the state of Florida with respect to courts. I have served for the past 7 years as the legislative chair for Florida Clerks and Comptrollers. And as I described just a few of the duties, I'd like to remind everybody that, and you've heard, it's an elected position, and it's independent from the court, and it's independent from the county commission, which is unusual for these titles to be put together. So elected independently from those two institutions, I serve as the comptroller. I'm responsible for investing your tax dollars. The portfolio is about $1 billion. I'm responsible for keeping the books of the county commission. I don't set the policy of the county commission. I don't make the spending decisions of the county commission. I keep their books. I issue the financial statements. These are the statements that the SEC, the bond markets, and all of the financial markets use to rate Sarasota, which, as you all know, has a very high rating with our bonds. That's about $1 billion budget. I am the Inspector General of the county and do fraud, waste, and abuse. And when I say I mean myself and the team. I have a wonderful team of people who work with me. Fraud, waste, and abuse, and we do internal investigations and audits of the people working for the Board of County Commissioners. I am the recorder of mortgages, deeds, and liens, and if you're from somewhere else, like most everybody is, including myself, you might recognize the name Registrar of Deeds. That is a responsibility of the clerk of the court and comptroller. We, as I said, record mortgages, deeds, and liens. That's about a $72 million operation with respect to collecting revenues and reimbursing the state. Then I am the clerk of the court, both county court and circuit court. There we collect about $79 million, keep records, and today the big deal with records is not only to make them available to the public when they are public records, but also to keep the records confidential that the law says are confidential. I've served, as I said, for the past 7 years as the legislative chair. I have been the recipient of the Certificate of Excellence during my tenure with regards to financial reporting. The investments are, we earned $273 million in the last 10 years off the portfolio. We are only invested in the bond market, not in equities market. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve. My name is Karen Rushing. I'll stay around and answer any questions that anybody has. And again, thank you so much for your interest in this race.
Our opponent is Todd Barton.
I'm an opponent of Karen Rushing. I have 40 years in the criminal justice system. Like my opponent or the incumbent, I have a number of awards throughout the United States. I served the federal courts, the bankruptcy court, the district court as a chief deputy, served as the chief deputy in Broward County. I've also been a clerk of court in California and Arizona, Michigan, Indiana, and I feel that I can bring a new, fresh blood to this community. There are a lot of things that are broken that need to be fixed. I retired to Sarasota 2 years ago, and I felt compelled to run for this office because I've been a public servant for 40 years, and that means to serve the public, that you are my bosses, and I can't lose sight of that, and that's very important. I have also taught at the University of Southern California. I've taught at the University of Arizona, taught at Indiana University. I have certifications from the Institute for Court Management, certifications from the Federal Judicial Training Center, and my master's degree is in judicial management, law, and public policy. My platform is that Sarasotans deserve a citizen-friendly court and someone that's fiscally conservative. I feel that I can bring that to all of you, and I look forward to your vote and your support. And I'm Todd Barton, so don't forget me.
Next is your favorite office, the office of tax collector. The incumbent Barbara Ford Coates is here. Barbara.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am Barbara Ford Coates, and I've had the honor and challenge of serving as your tax collector for 32 years. I want to thank you for that opportunity. Before I start talking about what my office has done, I do want to answer a question that even after all these years, my staff and I hear just about every day. Why can't Barbara Ford Coates make up her mind about her last name? Is it Ford? Is it Coates? It's too long to write on my check. I just want to let you know I sympathize. Because where I grew up in the mountains of Virginia, people had single word last names, and mine was Williams. I am not responsible in my marriage for the Ford Coates hyphenated name. It's been around for over 100 years. Came to be in England. My father-in-law was an RAF Spitfire pilot during World War II. At one time stationed in Arcadia, where he trained both British and American pilots. Then when he was stationed in Georgia, he met a drop-dead gorgeous Army Air Corps flight nurse from Pennsylvania. Now, Dad was pretty charming himself. It took him all of 3 weeks to convince her to marry him. They were married 64 years before they've since passed on. So at one time, we have 4 generations of Ford Coates here in Sarasota. My husband and his 2 brothers both live here. So please know, abbreviate it any way you want. As long as you remember who to call if you have a question, it's fine with me. But after 44 years of marriage, 7 daughters and 10 grandchildren, I'm not changing my name. I'm a strong believer in lifetime learning. My bachelor's degree is from the College of William and Mary in Virginia. I've earned the national designation of Certified Public Manager from Florida State University. And this July, I was awarded my certification as a Finance Master Level 5 from the University of Missouri, St. Louis. As your tax collector, I'm responsible for collecting and distributing almost $1 billion annually in property taxes, business taxes, tourist taxes, vehicle and vessel registrations, license plates, and driver's licenses. That amounts to about 1 million transactions, which are handled by a staff of 100 exceptional people. We do all this in several locations, and we're available 24 hours a day at SarasotaTaxCollector.com. Every day, my staff helps 1,000 customers, answers 500 phone calls, and processes 900 pieces of mail. Our budget is almost $8 million. Florida law does provide for a fee for what we do for the taxing districts and for the state. For instance, $3 of every registration is kept by my office. The income to our office is $17 million. Now that means if expenses are 8 and our income is 17, we give back $9 million to the taxing districts. In the private sector, that would be considered profit. In other words, being efficient is as important as customer service. I'm happy to report that we have the lowest cost per taxpayer of all the tax collectors in Southwest Florida and the 4th lowest in the state. With an office team that accomplishes so much, in 2008 I was honored to accept on their behalf the designation of the Outstanding Tax Collector in the United States. My office is known as being very innovative. In 1996, we were the first tax collector to issue a driver's license in Florida. We initiated a public-private partnership that now allows car dealers to register vehicles, thus getting the information online more quickly, and it saves tax dollars. We were the first office to begin the process of electronic billing. Due to innovations like these, last month, the multinational firm of Thomson Reuters selected us from 1,000 international nominees as the 2016 Public Sector Champion for Excellence in Leadership. So we were thrilled with that. No one likes to pay taxes. I know that. My job is to make it as painless as I possibly can. I hope your dealings with my office have been pleasant. My staff is known for being kind and efficient, and I ask for your vote to keep Barbara Ford Coates your tax collector.
She has a clock in her brain. Her opponent for this great office is Jim Bender.
Thank you, sir. It's hard to follow that. I don't expect you all to break out and just pandemonium applause. Good job, Barbara. I came to Florida in 2004. It started on the 12th of September 2001 because the building I was working in, the Pentagon, had just been bombed by a plane. And I signed up on the morning of the 12th, and there was a one-star general who worked for it, and he said, James, if you want to go to the Middle East, you've made a good decision. Well, he made a better decision, actually, because he got me to Florida, and I came to Central Command, and I got here in December of 2004. Now, through those experiences, I've spent a lot of time working with people. I worked with billion-dollar budgets in the Pentagon. I have got a master's in political science, an undergraduate degree in international science. I've lived in the Middle East for 5 or 6 years, so it was a great experience coming down here. I eventually finished 8 years of contract work, again at Central Command, working in the Intel department, which is really a fascinating place to be. If you've ever been there, anybody who's worked in Intel knows what I'm talking about, needs anything else. Wonderful group of people. So why would you want a new tax collector? I mean, she has a great record. Well, the first thing that strikes me is in 1947, when Congress still worked, the U.S. Congress in Washington, D.C. still worked. Many of you probably remember, well, some of you still remember that. They actually put in a law that said, regardless of how much we love people like FDR, we need to have term limits. Term limits, 8 years. 8 years for the President of the United States. And, strangely enough, here in Florida, we followed the same cue. We have 8 years for representatives. Some people have been termed out. 8 years. It should happen with any political office that you have. And I'm strongly in favor of that. I think that should have happened a long time ago. You can make up your mind. Do you realize that over the last 8 elections, 3 of those elections, there were no opponents for my opponent, which meant that 185,000, 190,000 people had no voice. Whatever I want to give you is a voice. I'm here for you as a voice. So 190,000 people on 4 different occasions had no voice in saying who would be their tax collector. It could have been 5, but I said, hey, this is a good idea. Let's get in, let's take a look at this thing, let's shake things up. As a matter of fact, if anybody's noticed, the Republicans are 126,000 strong in Sarasota County, and I kind of wonder why the Republicans don't want to be tax collector. Now, Barbara made a good point. It's not a job that's well liked. I understand that. So maybe you're not asking for the right thing. What is it? Be careful of what you ask for. You might get it. But honestly, we need to step forward. Fiscal policy has to be conservative. It cannot be in the other direction. We cannot follow in the footsteps of a Barack Obama, who's gone from 8 trillion to 16 trillion. Was that the bell?
No, you go.
Oh my God, you scared me.
A warning.
That's a warning. All right, well, I'm going to quit now because you scared me. We cannot go on with that policy. We have to have fiscal conservatives in positions of government. And as Abraham Lincoln said, and I'm going to finish because he scared me now. Oh, now you scared me more. Abraham Lincoln served 1 term in the House of Representatives, and when he retired, one of his fellow representatives said, Abraham, why are you leaving? This is a great gig. You must love it here. Or worse, to that effect. I don't know what they said in 1860-something, 1858. Abraham Lincoln said, being a politician and serving in the House of Representatives of the United States government is an honor. And it's a service. It is not a job. So, Jim Bender, tax collector. November 8th. Thank you.
The next office is County Commissioner, District 1. This office is open because the incumbent is denied the right to run for office due to term limits. So the first candidate for this office is Fred Atkins. Fred has been a commissioner in the city of Sarasota and a mayor. Fred.
afternoon. I am Fred Atkins, candidate for county commissioner. I want to be your county commissioner. I think that what Fred Atkins brings to Sarasota is my life. I'm born and raised here in Sarasota. When I was 32 years old, I got elected to the city commission in the city of Sarasota after going through a process of changing the at-large elections. The same problem we got in Sarasota County. That's why when we run for Sarasota County, I have to go from the airport to Northport and from the Gulf to DeSoto. And so this is a big area to cover. I hope when the time comes for you all to support single member districts, that you all will recognize the fact that wherever you all come from single member districts. Wonder why predominantly in the South, they don't want you to have single member districts. Amazingly so. The courts say this is illegal. I proved it in the city of Sarasota as a legal research person. So here we are. In the last 32 years, I served 18 years on the city commission. I served 10, 2 terms as mayor. I was off for 8 years. Then I served 8 and 1 term as mayor. And I've been off for 5.5 years. I come back to this process because I am the only person in Sarasota County that has the sense of reference, history, and understanding of how to help municipalities and county commissioners get along. I came to the city of Sarasota in 1985 when all blank was breaking loose. And there we were. But I came in there with a lot of understanding of relationships because my nature is I'm a social worker. I've been a mental health service, criminal justice associate. I graduated from Sarasota High School in 1970 after being desegregated in 1967. Yes, in 1967 was the first time I went to school with white kids. I was in 10th grade. So here we are. In 1970, when I graduated from high school, was the last time a Democrat was elected to the board of the county commission. I want to change that. And I want to be so instrumental in this process because not only has time come into sync with it, but also I'm the best possible candidate you could elect. I've got everything you need. I even know about Venice. I even know about sawgrass before it was saw. It was just grass and wood. All right, I've been here. So this opportunity for you all to take a look at a young man that grew up here into a middle-aged man now. And I'm ready, willing, and able to address the concerns and needs of not only North Sarasota County, but Central Sarasota County and South Sarasota County. And we have tremendous issues. We're going to have to deal with how we deal with the infrastructure of not only evacuation from hurricanes, but just getting back and forth from the north to the south. You know, this is a shame. Let me tell you all something, ladies and gentlemen. The history of Sarasota County Commission said you all weren't coming. We weren't going to prepare for you, and you wouldn't come. Guess what? You all are here. And guess who's 20, 25 years behind in infrastructure preparation? Sarasota County. Look at it. We don't even have. They rushed and built a R.L. Anderson administration building in Venice that's falling down. It haven't been up but for 15 years. It's a shame how they treat people south of Sarasota city limits. And I understand, because at the time the politics dictated that Sarasota city dominated. But guess what? The city of Sarasota is not in charge anymore. It's 12,000 more people in Northport than it is in the city of Sarasota, and they don't have anything yet. I mean, zero. Ladies and gentlemen, the South can rise again. But it's going to be determined by you. It's going to be how you all add the numbers up and decide that there's an opportunity for you all to have a greater influence. That greater influence is me. I want to be the person that brings you to the realization that you should be respected and admired and endeared just like the northern end of Sarasota County. Thank you very much. Fred Atkins. And I do need your contribution. contribution, FredAtkins.com. Thank you very much.
Fred's opponent is Mike Moran.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Mike Moran, running for Sarasota County Commissioner, District 1. I'm a Michigan State University graduate in finance and insurance. I've been an entrepreneur most of my adult life with my wife Lori in businesses related mostly to payroll and insurance companies, but a few other things as well. I'm a 24-year insurance agent. I've actually been in the business much longer than that. I was in my dad's State Farm office at 16 years old, quoting automobile insurance, so it's been pretty much my whole life. I'm also a certified insurance counselor, which is a significant designation in my industry. But I've been married to my incredible wife, Lori, who's usually with me here today, but she has another event. We've been married for 23 years. We have 2 amazing children. My daughter is 19, and she went to Florida Atlantic University, but she's transferring in January to University of Florida, so we're so excited about that. And my son Mikey, who goes to Cardinal Mooney High School, he'll be graduating here within the year, so my wife and I will be empty nesters here coming up. But I love telling the story of how my wife and I got here. We had sold a business up in Michigan, and my daughter and son were 2 and 4 at the time, so they were still in diapers, and my wife and I were looking at each other of whether we wanted to raise our kids in the Metro Detroit area, and we started looking all over the nation for a place to live. And we looked in the Carolinas a little bit. My dad lives in Richmond, Virginia. We looked in California for a little bit, but it was a little too weird for us. But we looked everywhere, and I had vacation as a kid on the East Coast called Hobe Sound, Florida, if any of you know it. But I had vacation there as a kid, and that was the year, if some of you remember, that Sarasota got ranked the 3rd nicest place in the nation to live. It was back then the internet, what it isn't today, but my wife was searching on the internet and found Sarasota, Florida. And we left my young kids with my in-laws, and we came here for a long weekend, and we just absolutely fell in love with this place. We just couldn't believe how unique it was. And we packed up everything we owned and left everyone we knew and loved and moved down here not knowing a single soul, literally not a person. We didn't even have an acquaintance, and we had a 2-year-old and 4-year-old at the time. And we jumped in and just did literally thousands and thousands of hours of volunteering. All the way that led up to, I'm appointed by the governor to the Southwest Florida Water Management District, which most people don't know what that is, but it's a substantial organization. Okay, good. It's quite an operation, and I came in there, I was appointed by the governor as a pro-business person to go in there and make sure that we got the bureaucracy out of that organization. And we literally have 600 employees. We have almost 440,000 acres of land, and we have over $500 million just in cash, not assets. But it's been quite an accomplishment dealing with them. I got involved in a lot of the insurance that was up there and made some humongous differences, which I'm very proud of. But I then also was a Sarasota County Commissioner here as well for a number of years. But when we got involved, obviously, to meet people and get involved into the community and volunteer our time, but what led me to running was never in a million years, you blink your eyes and you fast forward, and our kids are now, my daughter's off at college and my son will be leaving here in a couple months. And never in a million years did it cross my mind with my wife that our kids would leave us and go and not live here in Sarasota anymore. And it was, I grew up where my uncle and my first cousins literally all lived in the same subdivision together. And so, you know, when you're back when the kids were 2 and 4, I never imagined. I always assumed that they would have a job here and a career here, and I'd see my kids grow up and my grandkids grow up. The statistical facts that are coming out of this county of the way that we're losing our youth, and we're paying fortunes educating these children, and they're going off to Chicago, Boston, LA, and we are losing our youth here at an alarming rate. So it was a huge initiative of mine, and I've been beating this drum since the campaign and well before, that it's absolutely essential to us, to me, that we bring career creation here to this community, not jobs. And I think words matter very much in this. You hear jobs, jobs, jobs. We have plenty of jobs in this community. You can sling coffee here for sure. And you can do a lot of hospitality jobs. But having true careers where you can make $80,000 to $120,000 a year and live the lifestyle and raise the family that you'd like to raise is a concern of mine here. So I've been beating the drum for many years on this, and I will continue to beat the drum, and it's an absolute priority for me. Is career creation and economic diversity for us to move away from the construction and the hospitality and bring in the biomeds and the sports medicines and expand our marines of the world in this region. And I'll do everything in my power to take that forward. So with that said, any questions afterwards? All my information is voteformoran.com and has my cell phone number on there. Feel free to call me anytime. Thank you very much.
We now come to the office that is closest to home, the Mayor of Venice. The incumbent is John Holler.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for coming out this afternoon, and especially thank you for the honor of electing me for mayor for the last 6 years. It's been a privilege, and I hope to be able to carry that privilege on for another 3 years. And I'd also like to thank you for your service. I understand you are a Marine and you do a great job of bell ringing. Maybe we can get you out at Christmas time. Let me go over a little bit of my history for you. I've been a resident of Venice for 25 years. I came down as a certified financial planner for A.G. Edwards and was the branch manager. A.G. Edwards subsequently was taken over by Wachovia and then most currently by Wells Fargo Advisors. I was the branch manager, and about 7 years ago, I think it is now, I retired. And since then, I've never worked so hard in my life. The job of mayor is an intense job. The job of city council is an intense job. But I do take this job very, very seriously. I try to represent you to the best of my ability. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the things that we did. Well, I'm originally from Illinois, western suburbs of Chicago. I was an air traffic controller, left that occupation abruptly one day in 1981, and got into the financial planning business with A.G. Edwards. From Aurora, Illinois, I went to Columbia, South Carolina, and then down here to Venice, and have been here ever since. Once they got me here, there was no turning back. Things that we've accomplished, and it's not just me. I might be the leader of city council, but it's a great council that you all have elected, and I thank you for that. It's a council that gets things done. It's a council that does not hesitate to take on the difficult jobs. Let me mention a couple of them that we've done. And it takes time to accomplish these things. It's not an overnight process. We completely changed the health insurance plan for the city of Venice. When we took office, the employees of the city of Venice had a $10 a month premium for health insurance. Pretty darn good. Their co-pays were very small. And city council people, even serving for one term, could retire from council and have free health insurance for life. That all changed. We don't have any of that anymore, including the people that retired beforehand. The changes that we made in our health insurance plan, now we had to go and negotiate with all the unions to get this through. That took 3 years. And it hasn't been fully implemented until 2016 is when we could finally get it all implemented. But the changes over the next 20 years are estimated to be $30 to $40 million of your taxpayer dollars just in the health insurance reform that we did. We also did something that no other city in the state of Florida has been able to do. We negotiated with both the police and the fire unions and changed the 175, 185 defined benefit retirement plans and incorporated new employees into the state FRS system and many of the existing employees into the state FRS system. And that change alone is going to be worth about $20 million more over the next 20 years of your taxpayer dollars. That didn't bail us out of a plan that was seriously underfunded when we took office. And we're working on that. My financial background has helped an awful lot in leading council toward really good decision-making on these retirement plans. Well, that's things of the past that we've done. Let me talk about where we're going in the future. I'm working with private industry right now to try to incorporate some affordable, and I have to watch how I use that word. Everybody thinks it's subsidized housing. It's not subsidized housing. Rental apartment buildings that our working people can afford so that they can get into these apartments and spend 25 to 30% of their income, not spending 50 to 60%, so that we don't put more people out on the street as homeless. And I'm doing this without spending taxpayer dollars. I'm working with private industries. Let me tell you folks, the one thing that I learned is 5 minutes goes fast. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to another 3 years.
And now, the last but not least of my candidates, John's opponent, Frankie Abruzzino.
Thank you. All right, first of all, I'm not a politician, okay? So I'm here to talk to you as just somebody that's an advocate out there. A lot of you may know me from The Scoop. That's where most of my recognition comes from, except I'm not wearing my black t-shirt. You can't see my tattoos and my long hair and all that. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I basically have grown up here. You know, I was a kid here. I used to hang out with Mike Rose, the captain of the VPD. He dated my sister. I remember hanging out at the roller skating rink with him. I used to hang out at Turtles and Casco's. I went to Venice High School. I went through the ceremony at Venice High School. I remember how we used to be. I used to live above Tex Printing in Seaport. Go to the concerts at the warehouse. And I miss a lot of that. Now, I'm somebody that believes there needs to be growth and sustainability, and we're going to cover that in a second. Basically, I met my wife of 27 years, been together 31 years, out at Golden Beach. We were at a party, we ended up hanging out. I was in college then, and we decided I didn't have money, because my parents weren't rich. So I went into the Navy, and I decided to go into the University of Maryland and finish up my college degree while doing the thing in the Navy. We got out, we have our 2 daughters, one is now at Venice High School, one just graduated and is going to USF. We originally went to Italy, and I wanted them to get a new experience, the cultural experience, because my sisters lived there and I wanted them to see what it's like in a third world country, which in Calabria, it's a third world country. So we put them through that. They learned a lot. They hated it. They didn't like going to schools with broken windows and spray paint and stuff, so we ended up in no English. So we ended up coming back here, and I said, you know, let's go where my mom is, my sisters, where I grew up, and we ended up back here in Venice. That was a few years ago, 9 years ago. When I came here, I started the Scoop News, and what I do with that is a lot of advocating, a lot of people will say. I do a lot of aggregating of news. I write a ton of articles. I do a ton of reports. A lot of people know me from my reports. A lot of people hear me on the news, on WSRQ. I'll come on, I do a summary of news every day at 4 o'clock, so you might recognize my voice if you listen to them. So I'm out there advocating a lot, and a lot of people know me with Neil. I'm one of the people that brought to the Border Road situation the attention that Neil was going out there, he wanted to develop, he wanted to expand. So I bring a lot of that information out there because I have 75,000 people in Sarasota County that follow me. And actually, I'm doing 2 jobs right now. I'm actually filming this live for all of you guys, and it's going to go out throughout Sarasota County. But so I've been someone out there that's been fighting for sustainable, controllable growth. I don't like what we're seeing now with all this growth. I love the affordable housing thing. What I don't like what Jeff Boone is doing at Laurel Road. They finally dragged it out of him where he said, yeah, I know my apartments aren't going to be cheap, but we're going to build more apartments, which is going to bring down the price eventually. That's not affordable. I deal with people that call me all the time. They say, hey, I need an apartment, $800, I'm a single mom, I got 2 kids, constantly on my websites. Where can I find affordable housing? Those are the people that are out there looking for a job. I deal with people, just the other day, they're at Motel 6, they're getting ready to get kicked out of there, live in their car, they got 2 kids. He's working 2 jobs. Those are the type of people I'd like to help. If you see me, I'm gonna want planning. If you build a hotel at the airport, I'm gonna want infrastructure. Somebody told me, well, we got a plan to, divert traffic to that. We're gonna build shuttles. I'm like, who's gonna ride a shuttle? And you know what the traffic is like now coming over the Circus Bridge. I don't know if that's a great plan. So I know we need a hotel. I just don't know if we need that type of hotel, and I think we need the planning to ensure that the infrastructure is there. I like to tell a story about Venice Hospital. I was contacted last year or the year before by a fire guy. He said, hey, look, Frank, during season, the Venice Hospital emergency room is booked. And so I have to bring someone if they have a broken leg down to Northport. All right? When I'm down there, if your grandmother's having a heart attack, guess what? I may be in Northport and not be able to get there in time. And that's all due to the capacity issues. So why aren't we planning for that infrastructure? It's great now that Sarasota Memorial's coming into the picture, but Venice is dropping. With their new location, I think they're losing something like 40, 50 rooms. And so in Sarasota, we don't know if they're going to get on board. So those are the little bit of the concerns that I have in regards to the infrastructure. You won't see me, if someone comes up and says, look, I bought a house here 10 years ago, the zoning was X. Neil comes in and says, well, I know the zoning is X, but I'm going to buy this property, and I'm going to go to council and get them to change it to Z because I want it that way. You're going to see me say, you're lost, Neil. That's why you're not going to see my signs on Neil's property, Mike Miller's property. These guys all hate me because I'm not on board with all the overdevelopment that we're seeing out there. What else can we talk about? I'm trying to rush it through. We talked about the affordable housing, which is a good thing. The shuttle, I'm not for the shuttle, the trolley. I think that's a waste of money. I think we need to prioritize the budget. Instead of spending money out on a shuttle or a trolley or a parking lot in South Virginia, let's spend it on repairing the fire department stations. That's it.
Thank you, Jim. I was sitting up here in the audience looking over and thinking about decisions that we've made over the years, and we're truly about probably the second biggest decision we've ever made, and the one we've enjoyed the most is moving to Sawgrass. The people here are terrific. I could go on forever talking about how wonderful we've enjoying living here. We moved here not knowing anybody. Like Mike, he pulled off I-75 that night and said, ooh, boy, we've made a mistake. But having lived in Sawgrass for a year, we said, we've made a mistake. The next person I want to introduce is the greatest decision I ever made. A young lawyer came out of law school to work on the House of Representatives. I had been there as chief of staff to a member of Congress for about 10 years and thought I knew everything. And we'd go to meetings because she was working for Chairman Peter Rodino, if y'all remember during the impeachment. And she raised her hand and I said, who the heck is that girl? She's raising her hand. She's just come to work here, right out of law school. She thinks she knows everything. Well, she truly did. And it's been a wonderful 40 years. Most of you probably know her for the last 10 years. That she had a wonderful thing of running the Women's Resource Center. She moved here not knowing anything, but they select 4 people a year for the Hall of Fame in Sarasota County. And Jan was one of them 2 years ago. So it's been next to meeting Janice, moving to Sawgrass has been one of the greatest things we've had. You people are terrific. My wife, Janice Zarrow Wood.
Thank you. And it's my pleasure to introduce the candidates who are seeking a seat on the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board. This board governs Sarasota Memorial Hospital. And just by way of background, this board governs a hospital with 4,000 employees and staff members, 800 physicians, 819 beds, 7 outpatient facilities, and is one of the 20 largest public hospitals in the United States. This is the governing board. So for Hospital Board at Large, Seat 1, my pleasure to introduce Kevin Connolly.
I'm Kevin Connolly. I graduated from the University of Notre Dame, and no, I did not play football there. I was a boxer. And I fought the light heavy division and lost by the championship by a split decision, which I'm still contesting. Went into the Army, and was based in Germany initially and volunteered to go to Vietnam in early '64. There was a little bushfire war going over there. So they sent me to Special Forces training and Army language school to learn Vietnamese, and I arrived in country, and was assigned to a small little advisory team down the Delta. And I'm out with my captain, my first week there, and he says to me, "Lieutenant, ask this woman what is the road to so-and-so village." So I asked her in my best Vietnamese, and she answered me and said, "Sin loi toi kang noi ting mi," which translates as, "I'm sorry, I don't speak English." So my language training needed a little improving. I proceeded to go on over the year about 150 different combat operations, and I was the only guy on the team not to get hit. I left Vietnam, and a few years later I returned with the State Department as an economic development advisor, working on economic development projects in the Mekong Delta, and eventually retired out of the Army Reserve as a lieutenant colonel. Presently I am serving as president of Apollo Sun Guard, which is we're about 20 years old, and all my employees have health insurance, and the company pays 80% of a first-class premium. So I feel very strongly about health care for our people. And I'm fortunate enough to be retired military, so I have TRICARE and Medicare, and I'm covered, but a lot of people are not. Sarasota Memorial Hospital is a treasure. It's considered one of the 8 best hospitals in the United States. There is a serious threat because it is so good. And the governor of Florida, who made his fortune in the healthcare industry, would like to privatize that hospital. We've also heard that Legislator Gonzalez from Venice would like to privatize that hospital. And that hospital would sell for the billions of dollars. There's a lot of money at stake. But I'll just point out, on the 9 board seat members presently serving right now, all 9 are Republican. And if you want to have some assurity that you can keep it as a community hospital that serves the needs from Sarasota, Newtown, down to Northport, we need to keep a balance on that board. And you need to put at least half those board members as Democrats. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And also for the hospital board at large seat, the opponent Sharon Wetzler de Peters.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I want to say I'm not a politician. I have been a nurse and a nurse practitioner for 40 years. That has been the love of my life, and I have enjoyed every minute of it. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. Don't laugh. And was very glad to come here to Sarasota to get away from my shovel and all the snow 20 years ago. I graduated from the University of Buffalo with my master's and my bachelor's degree in nursing, and my specialty is critical care and cardiology. And I've done that for the past 40 years. I too was in the military. I went in as an officer and I spent 21 years, retired as a major, and I worked with all of our fellows that went over and came back, the lucky ones that came back. And I'll tell you, I could cry when I think about my years I spent with them. They'd come over missing a leg, they'd go to surgery, I'd take care of them in the ICU, and I'd have to cry with them because they wanted to go back. They wanted to go back to service. They wanted to go back and help their guys. And I've stayed friends with many of them, and my heart still goes out for them. I've worked the VA, I've worked private hospitals, federal hospitals, and public hospitals. And I'll tell you, my experience at Sarasota Hospital with my nursing students, being a college professor at State College of Florida for 14 years was phenomenal. I graduated in my class, probably, I counted them up, 650 RNs. A lot of them who are working at Sarasota Hospital right now. I love to see them. I get goosebumps thinking about the years we spent and how I had them in my clinical class. and my lecture class at Sarasota Memorial. So I know a lot of doctors and I know a lot of nurses over there. I love Sarasota Memorial. We're a country of freedom. We need choices. And I think we can coexist with our public hospital as well as our private hospitals in our community. And I am working for you. I am retired. I do keep a little job on the side, self-employed in cardiology. But I am retired, and as you know, this elected position, is voluntary. So I'm not making any money out there, but my heart is in it to take care of people. I will be there for you as your advocate. I will listen, and I will make it happen. I do have a big mouth and a loud voice, and I've been around for 40 years, so I know how to deal with administrators, with other officers, and doctors and nurses. And I will make my voice heard. You need a nurse on the board, a nurse practitioner especially. I've been in the medicine field. I know patients, I know their needs, and I will be an advocate for everybody from Longboat Key down to Northport. You need health care down here, big time, and you need the state-of-the-art health care. And if you vote for me, you can call me anytime. Anytime you need anything or you have a concern, I will be right there, okay? My time?
I got a little bit more to go.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, I moved to Florida 20 years ago. I live in Nokomis, and I love this community, and I compliment Sawgrass. It was beautiful just driving in here and looking at the homes. I live in Calusa Lakes, and I think we have about 550 homes over there too. And it was amazing for us to move down here and go through that community and see the people and the organizations that they have. I also am a volunteer on the Medical Reserve Corps of Sarasota. Thank you.
And for Hospital Board at Large, seat 2, Reed Schwabach.
Thank you very much. I would love to talk about my kids and how long I've been in Sarasota and all these neat little things, but I'm not. What I want to do is talk about issues. We have a hospital. Healthcare administration is a big topic these days. How many of you would be able to run a business that loses $1 million if the government doesn't want to compensate you? How many of you would be happy about that? Not really, no. So if you want to run a hospital, we have to resolve a problem where unreimbursed medical expenses are not paid, whether they be through state funds or private insurers. So one idea I have is that the hospital board can act as a legislative body proposing new legislation. I'm proposing something called a Public Hospital Indemnity Act. Basically, across the country, hospitals are hemorrhaging money. They don't get reimbursed for expenses. We need to do something about that so that hospitals can provide services and not worry about how they're going to get paid. Point number 2, we've been endorsed by the Nurses Union, the Democratic slate. I'm a non-party affiliated person. There's kind of a story there, but basically they twisted my arm to run. Why? Well, I'm a behavioral health specialist. What does that mean? Well, I'm a counselor. I go into schools, I counsel kids. I also have a practice for adults as well. I'm trauma certified. Basically, the schools are busting at the seams. We got a lot of people moving to Florida, and we have a lot of people moving to Sarasota and Venice and Northport. Yes, we need to build some new hospital. Yes, we need more hospital space. But let's build those buildings smart, energy efficient. Let's also make sure that we can get paid for the services that we render. Point number 2 is we want to have the nurses. The nurses really care for your life. The doctors maybe make some big decisions, but the nurses are going to keep your life and the support staff are going to keep the place really nice. So we have to be thinking about that. Behavioral health services are very important. I don't know, our communities, we hear about it in the news all the time. We need more behavioral health services. In the current annual report, behavioral health services are not mentioned once. They talk about obesity, they talk about COPD, they talk about aging, they talk about cancer. They don't talk about behavioral health services, keeping people happy. And that's kind of the idea. But they have a wonderful program at Bayside Health Services, very important. We need to expand that throughout the county. So that's where I come in. I think that's really important. Also, shaking up management. My incumbent says that when he took the appointed job, he didn't see any need for any changes in the board. I think we do need some changes. I think management needs to change. I would like to introduce a customer culture management program where everybody who's involved in the hospital operation is considered part of the decision making. So the physicians are part of that, the nurses are part of that, the support personnel, and the customers, the people who come there for care. So it's a little bit different than how we typically run a business operation. And then finally, we have to look at the future and how we're going to build our hospitals. So it is very important that we build them smart. We put them in the right place so that everybody can have a chance to utilize those services most efficiently. And then finally, we have a great board here. The Democrats have proposed a really diversified group of people. We got 2 nurses, we got a business owner, and God bless you, provide those insurance benefits to your employees. Great example. We have a Dee who's a member of the community for a long time, excellent lady with experience in human resources. We have some real diversity that we're offering here. And on November, when you go to vote, down at the bottom of page 1, we're right there. Please consider us for your vote for hospital board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we have hospital board at large, seat 3, Cheryl Brandy.
Good afternoon. It's truly a pleasure to be here and have you all stay here to hear about the hospital board, because most people don't think about the hospital board when you think about an election. We're down ballot candidates, we're at the bottom of the ballot, and most of the time the board goes about doing its business, and when the question comes up, there's an election for the hospital board. But I think elections are good because they give us time to reflect, and they give us time to think about change, and they give us time to think about where we have been. You know, the hospital board of Sarasota Memorial Hospital has a huge amount of influence on healthcare throughout this huge county. And that is really important to consider in terms of the direction. You know, we're in a sort of a contentious election cycle. You know, and it's really the grassroots candidates that impact your day-to-day life. So you really do need to take this seriously. You need to think about the experience level of the people that are on this board. My opponent is not here today. I think that might say something to you. I'm going to talk about my experience and why I am qualified to be on this board. It is new to me, but you will note that I have met every challenge in my life with the utmost 110%. I believe in what I'm doing, I believe in giving voice to the community, but I also believe in representing this jewel of an institution, and I believe that there needs to be greater representation in the South County area of Sarasota Memorial Hospital resources, and we need to continue to fight for that. Technically, I am Dr. Cheryl Brandy. I have a doctorate in nursing administration. I have a master's in nursing. I have a master's in human resource management. I have a postmaster's certificate as a nurse practitioner, so I'm involved 3 days a week at the Roskamp Institute Clinic. Some of you might have known me from that experience. I'm an affiliate with there, so I'm intimately connected with the day-to-day realities of healthcare in this community.
I do have some control over my schedule because that issue has come up. I understand what a tremendous responsibility this is in wanting to serve on the board and taking on this commitment. So I have some flexibility, and I believe I can meet the best of both worlds because I know intimately, I work with primarily an aging population. I know where we are very resource poor in this community. Every day when I have my clients sitting in front of me and they're like, what do we do? Where do we go? We have some things in our system that need to be worked on, most definitely. I understand the insurance issues. I understand some of the barriers that you face when you go out to try and get your medications and we have to switch something to something that might be more inferior than what I would like to see you with. I'm also a Navy Nurse Corps veteran with over 23 years of continuous active service. I retired in 1996 at the permanent rank of 05 Commander. Did 2 overseas tours of duty. Actually went and lived back in Japan as an expat for a number of years, where I took a position as a professor of nursing. So I've been a professor of nursing and a nurse educator for a number of universities. So I have that perspective. So I think it's important to have somebody on the board. I'm as a clinician, I'm out there, I understand what's going on from that level. But I also have the ability to take that experience and translate it into a governance level. Understanding how the issue of systems and systems thinking and how you need to be able to translate that day-to-day experience from making the institution better for the community. I've been in Sarasota part-time since 1997. I've been a full-time resident since 2005. And I love this county, I love this community, and it would truly be my honor to serve you and have your vote. Brandy with an I, that's all you have to remember. Now this is the Hospital Board Central District Seat 1, William Noonan.
Thank you. I am Bill Noonan. I graduated from Villanova University. You may recall that they won the NCAA championship. I want to bring that up as often as I can. I am a member of the board of directors. I feel like I'm under a bit of an attack here, so I'm going to change a few things I was going to say to try and address some of those points. And I am up for re-election, right? There are 5, it probably seems maybe a little bit confusing, there are 5 seats up for election on the hospital board. And even though some of those titles might say Northern District or Central District, everybody in the county votes for those seats. The charter of the hospital requires that people live in certain areas with a couple of the positions being at large. So I live in the Central District. I live, by Costco's, that particular area. So I just want to clarify that for you if you're a little bit confused about that. You've heard folks talk about it's a volunteer job. We do not get paid, unlike the rest of the folks running for office here. The only thing we do get occasionally is a meal. But it's hospital food. All right? One question I get asked frequently is, why am I doing this? Why was I interested in serving the board? Now, I've been involved with the board for 2 years. I've been on the finance committee and now the hospital board over the last 2 years. Well, it's because my wife and my campaign manager, who's sitting right here in the corner, Candy, right after we moved here, some 4.5 years ago, came down with ventricular tachycardia. And for the nurses here, they know what that is. That's a potentially fatal heart arrhythmia, and she was 911 to Sarasota Memorial. My family doctor called me immediately to tell me, what was going on. And she spent 10 days in Sarasota Memorial. And when you're in a hospital for 10 days, you pretty much know everything about the hospital. And it was the fantastic care that she got in the hospital that really caused me to say, what can I do to give back? And so that's how I got involved and eventually wound up on the finance committee and now on the hospital board. I want to point out to you that The hospital is very well run, right? It's a complex, large organization. You've heard some of the numbers, 5,000 employees, 2,000 nurses, almost 1,000 doctors. We have facilities, throughout Sarasota County, the main hospital, the ER in Northport, 6 urgent care centers, including one in Venice. We just opened a new one on St. Armand Circle. It's a large, complex organization, and it requires the background, a diverse background, to be able to effectively run that organization. We do even though Sarasota Memorial is responsible for providing a safety net of services throughout the county to everyone, anybody that walks into the emergency room, right? We take care of, and we're proud to do that. That winds up being, in terms of cost to the system, $10 to $20 million a month. We write off in terms of charity or bad debt care, but that's our responsibility. But do you see that, in terms of a negative impact in the community? Absolutely not. Because the system is so well run, we are expanding services. On the docket that's going to open before the end of the year is a nursing and rehabilitation center. You've probably seen the construction going on right next to the hospital. We have announced plans to build a pediatric clinic in the Northport ER. We're in the process of delivering an internal medicine residency program in the Newtown area. And on and on. We actually just approved this week $4 million to start to build plans to develop a cancer center on the campus of Sarasota Memorial, so that you don't have to go to Tampa or Orlando or whatever for cancer care. So those are the kinds of things that we're constantly doing in terms of providing services to the community. You've all seen in the paper a number of times, about Venice, that we want to build a hospital in Venice and not far down the road in Northport. Now, Northport's going to take a little bit longer because you have to have the infrastructure in place. In particular, you have to have the medical providers, et cetera, to be able to build a hospital in Northport. That's not there today. We would love to be able to go ahead and expand and build a hospital in Northport, but you have to do it in the right way. So, in terms of the hospital, we're in the top 2% of the hospitals in the country. That's been verified 2 ways just this year. The federal government, CMS, Medicare and Medicaid Services, basically gave Sarasota Memorial their 5-star award. It's their top award. Only 2 hospitals in Florida received that award, Mayo Clinic and Sarasota Memorial. Only 2% of the hospitals in the country. So I would ask for your vote. It's not all about just changing the leadership of the hospital. We need to look at everybody that's running for election and pick the right people with the right qualifications. Bill Noonan, thank you.
Thank you. And for that same seat, Jody Davenport.
Hi, thank you all for patiently listening to all of us. I appreciate you being here. Like she said, my name is Jody Davenport. I'm a registered nurse. I decided to get involved because I work with nurses on a local level, on a state level, and on a national level, and we are at risk of losing our hospital. It's a nationwide trend that's happening where public hospitals are being bought up by for-profit corporations, and then they close down the services that traditionally don't profitize, which would include labor and delivery and pediatrics. That's so important, especially to our largest city in our county, Northport, where we have the young families. And I think John Hollick said it best when he said that all residents of Sarasota County pay taxes, so you all deserve that equal access to health care. And I'm not sure if you're all aware what the #1 key to longevity is. Anybody have any suggestions? It's actually your zip code. It's your zip code because it's the access to health care. And we need to make sure that we have that access to health care. And when people think about a public hospital being a safety net, they tend to think about the indigent, but we also need to think about the working poor. And Sarasota County, those are the people that are able to still live here, is full of working poor. It's a service class industry, other than the hospital, which is one of the largest employers. So we need to make sure that we're providing for our underserved, which includes the working poor. As a nurse, I can't afford to access my health care. And unfortunately, the CEO of my insurance company made $70 million last year. We have a real problem with that, and we need to make sure that we keep public hospitals, because privatizing, just like what happened with the jails, we see that that doesn't work. And while publicly they are stating that they'll keep the hospital public, they're slowly starting to privatize. They're outsourcing some of the departments, which that is privatizing. So we need to make sure that we keep a public hospital. I also am very concerned about patient safety, and thankfully Manny Lopez and Frank Alcock are both supportive of nurse-to-patient ratios. They have the laws in California, and in the past 6 years that they've had those laws, they've seen decreased mortality, improved patient outcomes, and more importantly, the nursing shortage has gone away in California. We need that to happen here. We have a serious nursing shortage, and I can tell you what happens is they cut back on direct patient care, which will affect you. And lastly, I want to promote prevention. Nursing is actually a second career for me. I used to be an interior designer, and several years ago I decided that I needed to help people more, and so I became a nurse. But the reason that I brought that up is because I have experience as a small business owner, and I bring a lot of life experience. I was actually born the year that the last time that they had a Democrat on the county commission. So I've been around a long time, and I know how to help you, and I'm here for you. And actually, when I was a designer, people called me Jody Sofa because my name is Jody Davenport. So remember, Jody Davenport for Hospital Board. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last two for the hospital board, this is Hospital Board North and District Seat 1, Dolores D. McFarland.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your patience in staying here and listening to all of the candidates this afternoon. My name is Dee McFarland. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm going to tell you why I chose to run, and then I'm going to tell you why you should vote for me. How about that? I'm going to do that in 5 minutes. Now I got 4. I am from Monroe, Louisiana, and after graduating from a historically black university in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I got a job at General Motors in my hometown, and after 3 years they shipped me off to Detroit, where I stayed for 34 years. While in Detroit, in the Detroit metropolitan area, at corporate headquarters, and after several promotions, I decided to go back to school and get my MBA, which I did in the 80s. I had opportunity to move around in human resources management, but once I landed in healthcare, I fell in love with healthcare. I fell in love with the opportunity to serve all the people that GM insures. Now I'm going to throw out some big numbers for you, but back in the day when I was at GM, before they went bankrupt because I wasn't there. But as a health plan manager at General Motors, we spent, as a self-insured plan, $3 billion a year. We spent that money to provide health care benefits to all of the employees and their families, all of the retirees and their families, and that number totaled 1.6 million people. It was an honor and a privilege to work at General Motors and to affect the lives of people and to design benefit plans, to negotiate contracts with the United Auto Workers Union, and to negotiate contracts with the vendors, with the health plans themselves. I served on various health plan boards in Michigan, and so I speak board. I know how boards work, and so I think I would be well qualified to serve on this hospital board. Now, why did I decide to do this? Well, I moved here 5 years ago, and I was looking for a southern place, warm, and I had like a top 5 criteria, and Sarasota, Florida met the criteria. Interestingly enough, I won't go through all the gory details, but sometimes if you ask me, I'll tell you what my top 5 were. I'm a perpetual list maker. But the 5th reason why I picked Sarasota out of a hat, just off the internet. sight unseen, didn't know a soul here, was because they had a nationally ranked hospital. How about that? I did that because working at General Motors, and they shuffled me off for a time to get some experience in pension and in labor relations, and couldn't wait to get back to healthcare. But I heard so many heartrending stories of retirees who moved to some remote area of the United States, and then there would be an episode, and they had no health care within a 50-mile or 100-mile radius, and they had to be airlifted out. I had to listen to so many heartbreaking stories of people who did not survive, and their spouse wanted reimbursement for very expensive air ambulance service, which wasn't covered under the plan. So I said, whenever I retire, I'm going to get into a community that has a nationally ranked hospital. Now, why am I running? Well, when they approached me to do it, I said, well, I don't want to do that. I'm retired. I don't have any aspirations to do that. But I am a praying woman, and so I had to pray about it a little bit, because I don't want to do this out of ego, and my God, with all the volunteer organizations that I'm involved with in Sarasota, I'm busy enough. And I'm not doing it for attention or anything, but this is what came to my spirit. I'm doing this because serving on this hospital board would be a very unique way for me to serve the residents of my new community. And I would also add some much needed diversity to this board. Well, diversity, you might say, well, obviously I'm an African American, right? Yeah, I am. But I'm also a woman. I'm also not a business person per se, but a healthcare professional, okay, who has compassion for the people that I serve. So, if you can vote for me, I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last candidate for the hospital board, Jim Meister.
Thank you. Just a couple quick ones. I'd like to thank Bobby and Dick for putting this together. Secondly, to the Sawgrass Community Association for inviting us with my fellow candidates to speak with you. And I also sense I'm the last thing between you and the Early Bird Special. So who is Jim Meister? I was born and raised in New Jersey. Moved to Sarasota after I took an early retirement in 1998. Lived here 18 years. And as Dee said so well, when my wife and I decided to move to Sarasota, it was most important on our checklist that we have good physicians and a good healthcare system. And lo and behold, several years after we moved to Sarasota, my wife was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I spent many days with her at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. Sorry, I still get emotional. And we have the gem. But why am I involved in hospital work? Well, it started back in New Jersey while running a company. I was also involved and became chairman of a local community hospital in Mountainside, New Jersey. Do we have any Garden Staters? Mountainside, Montclair, New Jersey, Mountainside Hospital. And I was part of a group of men from 4 different hospitals put the first merged system together in New Jersey called Atlantic Health System, which is today, was, and still is one of the premier healthcare providers in the Garden State. So, what experience do I have? In addition to what I have done in New Jersey in hospital work, and in addition to being chief executive of a successful food company, while here in Sarasota, I was a community member of the Sarasota Hospital Board on the audit team. And in July of last year, to fill a vacancy of a board member relocating back up north, I was appointed to the board. I am the chairman of the audit committee, and I am vice chairman of the finance committee. Sarasota Memorial is a gem, as it has been said several times this afternoon. What I bring is commitment. One of the things that I've always found very helpful and what has driven me in my professional and my non-professional career is I feel personally being involved and giving back to the community is not for press, it's the right thing to do. And that's why I am so delighted to be a member of the board of the hospital. I hope I will continue to be a member if you and others support me. Bill, my colleague on the board, gave you a random, updated, accurate list of everything that's going on at the hospital, so I won't repeat it for you or with you. What I do commit, and it's come up from fellow colleagues or candidates, that I pledge as a board member to work very hard in keeping Sarasota Memorial a not-for-profit hospital. We don't want to report to the shareholders. We don't want to worry about next month's stock price. We want to worry about health care, my first commitment. The second commitment is to make sure, as a fiduciary of the taxpayer and the residents, that the board is represented at the board table, representing our taxpayers, our residents, to make sure we get good value for money, we have a good cash flow so we can grow, but most important, that all of the residents and taxpayers are represented on the board. The last commitment is about Sarasota Memorial. If I am elected or re-elected, I would work very hard with the 5,000 plus associates, with the management team, the doctors, and making sure that we achieve our mission and vision of being a caring, quality outcome organization who wants to and is to continue to be the premier healthcare provider in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. I tell you what, we the people of Sawgrass do what we're asked to do. I'm going to have Mike to stand at the door, and let's all take a 60-second stretch. Stand up, stretch. We're in the fourth quarter. We have a real treat for you. We have three of our outstanding councilmen that we've got a treat. So, if you would just ask you to leave now, please. Just stand up and stretch. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
She's fed up. Absolutely.
Okay, if I can get you to take your seats now.
Fed up with how things are happening.
We have two of our, shows you how popular two of our city council persons are.
Want a photo of me?
To show you how popular two of our city council members are and what an outstanding job they're doing. They're unopposed, but we want to hear from them briefly on their plans for this coming term and what the status of the city of Venice is. So at this time, Bob Daniels, who's done an outstanding job on the city.
Thanks for inviting me out here, even though I don't have anybody to yell at or go against. And I don't want to talk about all my credentials. I want to mention I had my wife here for 30-some years. And I think I set the council record. I had my left hip replaced with a good medical profession. And this lady right here watched over everything with my PT daughter. So I was back on council meeting 3 weeks later. And my happy you say I thought I was making some pretty good decisions. But what I want to talk to you about is this. Don't make light of this race. And I'm not a politician. I was asked to do this job, and I was all about giving back after I had a very successful career in education in the private sector. But let me tell you some things that I personally did. Take-home vehicles. We had 60 of them. 60 in the city when I came in. No policy. 50% of them were used for personal business. Our fuel bill is $500,000 a year. Maintenance bill is $1 million a year. We spent about $3 to $4 million in replacement. The former fire chief had an F-350 truck that gets 5 miles a gallon and was driving to Manatee County. I'm happy to say now we have 3. Actually, we had none. The mayor hired the new city manager, took his car away, and had to drive his own vehicle, and he came begging for his car. But we only have 3 vehicles now: city manager and the 2 chiefs. Can you imagine that? What would happen if somebody would have gotten an accident? There's no policy. We just gave you a car because we liked you. Isn't that nice of you? Yeah. 2 major things that a council person is responsible for. And I'm really serious about you thinking about this. Budgeting. $113 million budget. I have seen council people in the past, and I'm not going to mention names, but when it comes to budget time, the document's 400 pages long, and it looks like it came off the Xerox press fresh. Mine has sticky notes, highlighters, and like the mayor here, I was taught line by line looking at it. Why do I do that? One department had an increase in safety shoes, $125 a piece. You only have 6 people out in the field. Why do you want 12? Well, my secretary needs them, the manager needs them. You ever go out in the field? No? Well, you forget that. So I'm telling you, there aren't a lot of people running for office that know how to read budgets. $113 million a year we're responsible for. The mayor mentioned a lot of big things we've done, and it does take a good team, in which we do have a team. I'm only 1 vote. I have to get 3 more votes to get anything done, and that's very important that you elect people that can work well together and get the other votes. What do I see left of this city? First place, Venice is a great city. Financially, we're AA+ rated by the financial investors. We're able to get bonds at real low interest rate. So financially, the city, despite what I said, has a real good rating. But a lot of opportunities to run this city a lot better financially. But we have an old city. Airport, 50 years since the runways were repaved. I'm happy to say both of them are done, thanks to the FAA and FDOT, not your tax money, it's $20 million put in there. And there's many other things. Utilities, we passed on a 3% rate, and we used to have wood water lines on the wood. Asbestos drains, asbestos. So it's a journey, $10 million a year, and we're going to get out of that. John mentioned about public safety. We are one of the few cities that is dealing with infrastructure, utilities. The health care is under control, and we're going to get our public safety pension plan under control. This stuff got out of whack long before we got in office. Somebody mentioned about these developers. We are operating on the previous council comp plan. 500 pages. We got a record, an award in the state. We had the largest comp plan in the state of Florida. Most of them about 125 pages. And it's loaded with LDRs that we have to pay $15 million for consultants to do. Well, we decided we're not going to do that. So we're in a rewrite of the comp plan. It's very controversial, and I'm sure some of you attended it. We've gone through 2 planning directors. I will say this, they had to change furniture. We had a little problem there. But anyway, that's what I see moving ahead, getting the comp plan and getting our infrastructure straightened out. Thank you very much. I look forward to the next 3 years.
Thank you, Bob. When we first came to Venice, we go see the city council, and I certainly can't say this about the present city council because we had some of the hardest working people. But I used to tell my friends, don't go down to city council. It's a lot cheaper than the movie, and it's a lot more. But I don't say that about the present one. The person I'm about to when I get time, when Janice had had me running to one of her committee meetings on something, I look to go to city council. And the person I'm going to go introduce, she always does her homework. I don't care what the issue is. I can't wait to hear Jeanette give her opinion on whatever the issue, because she's done her homework backwards and forwards. And Jeanette, you're doing a terrific job, and keep up the good work.
That's an honor. I really appreciate hearing that. And to be invited here when you know you're not going to see a Gates for Venice sign, but you know that I'm working on your behalf. This was a difficult decision for me to decide that I was going to do this third term, and I think most of you know that I still work. My husband is a general contractor. An honorable profession. He's a general contractor. We've been in business since 1990. We raised our children here, and I am dedicated to this community. I love this community, and I have one daughter that's still here. I have one daughter that's in Northern Virginia, in that political arena up there. I hope to get her back, and that is one of the things that we need to do. We need to have jobs for these young people, these millenniums, as we're calling them now, the millennials. We need to have jobs. We need to have housing. We need to offer them something. So I have been honored to sit on your behalf on the Economic Development Advisory Board as the liaison to our local board, but also on the Economic Development Corporation of Sarasota County. I take that job very, very seriously. I attend every single meeting. We have another one up in at the Port of Manatee is a joint between the Metropolitan Planning Organization and the EDC. So I'll be attending that. It is about making ourselves a full community to everyone, not just us working folks, not retirees. Well, we need those young people here. We need them. So I'm working on that. But I really do appreciate all your support, and we are working on the comp plan. I hope you all had your say on that and gave your input, because it is very, very important. I don't want to keep hearing from folks that they're mad at us because we allowed this building out here. We allowed it because we had to. It's part of the comp plan. We didn't write the comp plan, but we have to abide by it. Otherwise, we have Burt Harris Act violations, and we as a city will be sued. I have worked very hard not to get us involved in any lawsuits because we don't want to go back there. That is wasted money. So we have a comp plan, we abide by it. In fact, every single development that's out there, we lessened the density. It's not as much as what it could have been. And that's the scary part. It's what could have been is what scares me. So we need to keep working on that comp plan. But I sure do appreciate you folks, and you're always, you have my number. I'm always available. Thank you.
Dennis is going to have me do a double exercise tonight. We're really proud of this next person. He worked hard. I saw him all over town and campaigning, and people out here in Sawgrass, Fred, I think you'd agree they work too. And we're proud of what you're doing. Keep up the work and come up and tell us a few comments.
Thank you, Bob. I would have dressed different had I known I was going to do this. Thanks for coming. One of the things I'd like to say is that I've had a chance to meet some fantastic people. Not just while I was on the board for a short time here, working in committees in our HOA. It was very exciting. But as a city council person, the talent the intelligence of some of the people that live in this area. It's so overwhelming. It's unbelievable. Some of the committees that it's the Charlotte Harbor National Estuary Program. Those people, scientists, brilliant people. Some of the things I've learned about the seagrass is coming back. And if you don't know about seagrass, it's really, really important with our estuaries and the fresh water when it meets the salt water, and how spawning is impacted by the loss of seagrass. I don't want anybody to go to sleep, but that's just one of the many things that I've learned as a city council person. Some of the other city council people talked a little bit about budget. And taxpayer money is important. My wife Stella and I, we're different than most people. We live beneath our means because I don't know when the second shoe is going to fall, whether the kids need money or the car breaks down or something like that. That's the mentality that I brought to city council. I don't know what's happening in the next couple of months, so I'll make sure that we have the reserve funds to take care of it. And the pension funds were mentioned. That is a big issue. We need to work on that. We will work on that, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve it in the near future. Other than that, I've got another 2 years, then I'll probably campaign again, so please don't forget me. It's fun. It's really a love fest at City Council. The meetings are very short. We had one just recently that ended at about 1:35 in the morning. So, thanks for coming. We really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Keep up the good work. I wish we could get the United States Congress to operate in that fashion. Fred, keep up the good work. Next person I'm going to call on is in his first term as our board chair. And I did not know Dick until I was asked to chair this political forum. But I tell you, as a worker, he is constantly doing something in his capacity as chair of the Sawgrass Association. The phone calls he gets, I don't know how many times I called and his line was busy. Tip O'Neill used to say all politics is local. Well, it is as far as the chair of the Sawgrass Association. So Dick, as a resident, I appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and please keep up the good work. And now at this time, please introduce the Charter Review Board candidates for Sarasota County.
Thanks, Bobby, and thanks, everyone. And you don't have that timer going, do you, Mike? That's right. We agreed you're not going to have the timer going for me. Actually, I'm going to speak later, but the first thing I'm going to do is, in fact, or a little bit anyway, the first thing I am going to do is introduce the Charter Review Board. And for some reason, Bobby said that I should actually read something from the net that says what the Charter Review Board is, for those of you who don't know. He also said to speak very slowly because there are other Alabama fans in the room. The Charter Review Board is an elected body of 10 members, 2 members from each of the 5 county commission districts, who serve staggered terms of 4 years. The Charter Review Board reviews and proposes changes to the Sarasota County chapter, which are submitted to referendum in accordance with the provision of Article 6, that's in Roman numerals, by the way, of the Charter. An affirmative vote of 2/3 of the Charter Review Board members is required to submit amendments to the referendum. Members are elected county-wide by the voters of Sarasota County at the general election and take office on the second Tuesday following the general election. They serve without compensation. That's very familiar. Meetings are held to organize, elect officers, and conduct business pursuant to the Charter Review Board bylaws. So, the very first person we have is Arlene Sweeting.
Hi everyone, my name is Arlene Sweeting. I'm running for the District 1 seat on the Sarasota County Charter Review Board. And even though it doesn't really matter because it's countywide vote, District 1 is North Sarasota and east of I-75. And I'm a former middle school teacher. I taught science up in Manatee County, yes. It was a lot of fun. I I also co-founded our community radio station here in Sarasota, WSLR, and I currently manage the Fogartyville Community Media and Arts Center. And both of those organizations are really about giving people a voice